4000 метров. Осталось 3 секунды. 2, 1, 0. Были видны в радиусе до... Полевой столб, поднимающийся с земли, быстро увеличился...
On October 30th, 1961, the Soviet Union created the world's biggest man-made explosive known as the Tsar Bomba. When detonated, its power surpassed over 100 megatons, which is over 2,000 times the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. It caused an earthquake that went up to 5 on the Richter scale. You could see its flash of light from 1,000 kilometers away, or 600 miles. Its destruction spread over 35 kilometers, or 22 miles. Safe to say, this was not a bomb to be messing with. And during a time of crisis, due to Cubans, the thought of nuclear holocaust would scare anybody back then. What if it happened to us? Would we survive? And if not us...
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
But before I can get into that, let's place ourselves in a theoretical situation. Let's imagine that the United States got itself into a nuclear war against, let's say, China for good measure. Let's also imagine that due to extensive nuclear research between both sides, they each have bombs that are 10 times the size of Tsar Bomba that will be used at a moment's notice. And that moment's notice just so happens to be right now. China plans to shoot for Philadelphia directly, because of course they would. Everybody gets a threat on their phones. Everybody panics and tries to scurry to the nearest bomb shelter, depends if there are any. For those that do make it, they seal themselves away and pray that they shut the door tight enough. The 142.6 square miles that make up Philadelphia have completely evaporated, and many other cities that surround it are also destroyed in the process. Any human who is still walking and breathing outside has been vaporized. Buildings have been demolished and reduced to rubble. Grass, trees, and other plants are eradicated. However, there is a good possibility that there are some survivors within this pile of rubble that was once the city of brotherly love.
When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do.
Let's start with the organisms that have been rumored to survive a nuclear blast. One example of these types of organisms is the cockroach. You may have seen the movie WALL-E, where the trash cleaning robot WALL-E befriends a small cockroach named Hal. It's always been a common belief that cockroaches can survive a large portion of radiation far superior to humans and can easily live through the wasteland that destroyed Philadelphia. While people have observed that roaches can withstand a high amount of gamma radiation, the chances that they would be the majority to survive the nuclear fallout is not high. The likelihood of ants being survivors is also ideal, notably because they dig far into the ground. However, you have to remember that we're dealing with an urban environment here. Whether ants, cockroaches, or any insect within the blast zone can use the city's landscape for its own protection is all up to if they know what they're doing, which they probably won't considering the fact that their brains are all small and stupid. In order to figure out the question, what would survive nuclear war, we have to go even smaller than insects, down to the microscopic level.
You know how bad sunburn can feel. The atomic bomb flash could burn you worse than a terrible sunburn.
This is the part where I start talking about tardigrades, so I'm going to start doing that. This is a tardigrade, otherwise known as a water bear or a piglet. These microanimals have made themselves notorious for being quote-unquote invincible. They live in every place that has water, whether it be lakes, rivers, oceans, or the moon. Because one day Israel thought maybe we should send tardigrades to the moon, and then they crashed and they all died. Yay! Regardless, tardigrades activate their immortality mode by forming themselves into a ball known as its ton form. With this in play, it can survive low and high temperatures, 6 times the pressure of the world's deepest ocean, and also, what do you know, radiation. Now this all sounds cool and all, but researchers one day said, hey, what if we just ruin everybody's fun and find out what the big weakness with tardigrades is? So they did. They found out that tardigrades usually don't survive elevated temperatures over an extended period. Granted, these bugs can withstand temperatures of 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which may be perceived well during a nuclear blast. However, whether they survive the bomb depends on how big of the body of water they're in. Since water is a very dense material, it's likely for tardigrades to survive in a swimming pool during the explosion. So, let's say that some tardigrades in very shallow forms of water will evaporate and die. That's a loss we're willing to take, because there's another species that's even smaller than a tardigrade and can withstand more radiation than all life on Earth.
In Betty's school, they are talking about the atomic bomb, too. Betty is asking her teacher, how can we tell when the atomic bomb may explode?
It's called the Deinococcus radiodurans, a bacteria that can survive several thousand times the amount of lethal radiation to a human. Its secret? It has an extraordinary ability to repair itself when exposed to rays of radiation. Normal bacteria would die from that amount of radiation due to the effects of radiation breaking their DNA and chromosomes. The Deinococcus, however, is able to repair itself after 120 breaks, proving itself to be the most enduring life form ever to live. Maybe. Okay, so now we know what will survive nuclear war. But let's say you're not a cockroach, nor a tardigrade, nor a radiation-blocking bacteria. The likelihood is you're a human who is severely unprepared for a nuclear holocaust, and you're afraid a stray bomb is going to go off somewhere and turn your bones into baby powder. Although the chances of a bomb coming out of nowhere is very, very unlikely, and considering the fact the doomsday clock is only at 100 seconds to midnight, here's some things you may need to survive a nuclear blast yourself.
You may be in your schoolyard playing when the signal comes. That signal means to stop.
The average 200 square foot bomb shelter will cost you around $40,000 to $60,000. You can also go a bit smaller and only pay $20,000, but if you want to go the extra mile and Todd Howard your life
16 times the detail,
you can get a way bigger underground shelter for around, let's say, a couple $1,000,000. But let's say you go for the average cost, that's fine. But you also need to pay for shipping, which is around $10,000, a team to set up said bunker, which will run you about $20,000, and when you have that bunker, you need to put things in it. Some things may include canned food, water, air ventilation, medical equipment, a generator, tools, clothes, guns, a radio or television, and that list may double or triple depending on how many people you have located within that shelter. So to put a long story short, if you're not rich or don't have access to a local bunker near you, you're dead. And that's how you turn a game of survival into a socio-economic crisis. So, now you know the possible survivors of the incoming nuclear war. In an age of bracing the inevitable, there's always some species out there just laughing at us, buying millions of dollars of nuclear protection. Whether they would be insects, microanimals, bacteria, or genetically modified humans, which for the sake of this video do not exist, yet. So, the next time you get yourself into hot water with an opposing nation has a lot of bombs, you better have come prepared, because nuclear war doesn't stop for anyone.